So what we're going to be doing here is creating a graph from an equation in Desmos. That's going to be our first skill that we have here. So when we take a look, we're going to be seeing what we have here. We've got creating a graph from an equation. Now, guys, here's the way that I want you to kind of think about this as we're looking through it. When we're dealing with a problem like this, what you have to realize is that when we solve this, we know that what we're going to be doing is solving an equation in the format of y is equal to mx plus b. Now, what I do want to make sure that you recognize is when we're doing this, we're going to be seeing that our m, this is our slope, and this b is going to be our y-intercept. And I'll type these up here so you can kind of see them at the same time. So this is our slope. This right over here is our y-intercept. So what I want to make sure that we at least have an idea of is, so when we do something like this out of here, what that means we're going to do. So ultimately, your y-intercept is the place that you want to start your graph, okay? So your b is whatever this number is off on its own that doesn't have the x attached to it. That in this case is -1. That tells us where on our y-axis we're going to start our point. Now, if you notice, if we're over here, you're going to be getting sort of like a little point to be able to graph this. We have a -1. So I'm going to go on the y-axis until I find my -1, and I want to make sure that I put a mark there. Now, this is pretty clear. That's fine. Just make sure we can see where that's going to be at, okay? Now, when we go over and we start to talk about slope, one of the things that's going to be important for us to recognize is that a slope, when we talk about that, is going to be a, a fraction, right? And so when we're going to be dealing with a fraction here, what we're going to be looking at is, I'll make a little fraction bar, and I think that's probably not going to be enough, but I think we're going to be okay with it. On the top of this fraction, you are going to have your change in, if I can do it, can't do it yet. Your change in y is up there. And then below that, you're going to have your change in x down here. So this tells you how far you go up and down. This tells you how far you go left and right. Now here we have a -4/3. So that means that my change in y is going to be a -4. My change in x is going to be a +3. So the change in y is how far we go up and down. The change in x is how far we go left and right. If it's a negative for a y, that means we're going down. If it's a positive for the x, that means we're going to the right. So when I go about graphing this, knowing that this is the value I have for -4/3 from what we have here with our -4/3, I can come over here and say, well, okay, this is where we've started because that's my y-intercept. I can go down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is down 4 from our starting value. And then we're going to go right 3, 1, 2, 3. So what I have right here are, I've got two values that I can kind of look at. We had our value that we started with, which is right here. This is the one that we started with. It was our y-intercept. And using our slope going down 4/3, we have this value here. Now what that lets us do then is we can connect these two to be able to have our line. Now I like to do it. You start through here, you go through that point, and you just kind of take it to the end. And I'll stop it there. And then just so that I can make sure I can see how far it would go in this way, I start from the second point and I go back up through this one just to keep going. Now you're going to see an overlap, but it gives you kind of an idea as to what would happen as this line goes all the way across. You see the double overlap, and it's fine. That's going to be okay. But this is what the graph of this line would be using the slope, -4/3, the y-intercept of -1. And this is the way that it works. So that's the way that you're going to be doing this when you do them on the test. That should be fairly straightforward and the way that you're going to want to do that. And that is the end of this video.